welcome to the TEDx stage, Gunnar Counselman.
All right, so about 8 years ago or so, I got interested in a problem. Actually, more than interested, I actually got obsessed with a mystery. The mystery was this: if everybody around seemed to agree that the system of education wasn't working adequately, it's not educating the workforce, it's not preparing people to be citizens of the country, there's all these problems, and everybody I talked to seemed to agree with it, why is it so damned persistent? It's a mystery. I thought about it and I thought, what's the secret survival gene that this system has got that allows it to endure all of these problems? It's not adapting, it's not improving, and yet it's surviving. And I thought of the duck-billed platypus, right? Here's a creature that I couldn't understand why it survived, but I'll bet that if you look hard enough, you'll find some secret genius within it. And I think the world works the way it does for a reason. And if something seems broken but never fully breaks, then there must be some secret genius to it. And as a former counterintelligence officer in the Marine Corps, I don't like secrets unless they're my secrets. So I started to investigate. I read everything I could get my hands on. I worked I did research with professors. I spoke to everyone who would listen to me. I camped out inside the system of education, talking to students and the people who inhabit the halls, trying to understand what is this thing's secret. And I couldn't figure it out. No matter how hard I looked, no matter how many people I talked to, I just couldn't find the answer. And then I decided to flip the problem on its head. Right? And instead of asking the people inside the system or the students who are going through it, I decided to go ask the people who are on the other end, the economy. Right? The companies and the industrial clusters that are out there that are hiring people out of the system in droves. After all, we spend over $1 trillion per year on making this system work, and I figure with that much money floating around, there's got to be a reason people are footing the bill. And when I started observing how employers were using the system of education, I realized that although they lamented its inadequacies every single day, and behind closed doors they would talk about it plainly, they found real level in the macro sorting function that the system of education provides them, the signals that it provides, and some people have talked about that. They think that the degrees that are coming out the back end of the system of education are actually really meaningful, and they're very consistent about this. And the harder the degree is to get, guess what, the more meaningful it is, right? They're explicit about saying, I value it because it's hard. And in private, like I said, everyone's willing to acknowledge the system's imperfections. But people firmly believe that college and high school together does a fair job of doing what the famous Jefferson piece in the founding of the Virginia public education system talked about, which is raking the rubies from the rubble, finding those uncommon geniuses amongst us and elevating them. They said that they could trust colleges, great colleges, to turn out great talent, and they didn't really care whether these colleges were finding great talent or whether they were creating it themselves. They just knew that it was a great pipeline for them. And they would, in the absence of anything better, they were frankly just glad to have some signal of excellence. And employers all the employers I've talked to have a general belief that if someone's talented enough in that system, they'll figure out how to make it work in my system as well. So everyone agrees on one thing, which is the system does one thing well, which is to prevent false positives. The idea is that there's very few lame, lazy knuckleheads who are graduating from top schools with good grades. The flip side is also true from their perspective, which is that if somebody does graduate from a good school with good grades, they can feel fairly well confident that they'll figure it out. But they also agree, and this was very interesting to me, that there are tons and tons of false negatives. That is, really talented people, really capable people who don't have those signals, who don't have those brands. To the industrial economy, think about it from their perspective. From the industrial economy's perspective, they may care about the human cost of that, the false negatives, but at the end of the day, they could always find enough well-pedigreed, smart, capable people to fill the jobs that they had, right? I've also found it, there were always plenty of these well-pedigreed people to go around. I've also found it interesting that as I've started to talk with folks about what a new system of credentialing might look like, what the structure of that better system would look like, there's been very little disagreement. The word badges are everywhere right now. Think about it. Google uses badges. GE uses badges. There's ways to validate people's competency. You look at Stack Overflow. The valley is overflowing with ways to help people find better talent in this part of the economy. The US military uses badges famously. And some in academia are calling these things stackable credentials that you can put together and mix and match however you want to in order to get where you're trying to go. Some people have said, well, the Boy Scouts got it right a century ago. Why mess with something that works? The problem has always been that the need for this new system of credentialing that's not really that hard to figure out is more like a vitamin than it is a tourniquet, or it has been historically. We know it's good for us. We know these vitamins are good for us, but it takes a special kind of person to wake up every day and take their vitamins. And companies and the people who inhabit the management positions of these companies are understandably risk averse, right? If the system's working fairly well, good enough, if it ain't broke, why fix it? Well, when the economy tumbled in 2008, what was a vitamin became a tourniquet. Old heuristics stopped working. The economy had changed, and there was, for the first time, an opportunity to truly recast this credentialing system in a way that's better for the student, better for the companies, and fundamentally cheaper for the taxpayers and the parents who are footing the bill. That's the big idea that I think is worth spreading tonight, is that there's a perfect storm happening right now that can potentially allow a new system of credentialing to come into place. One that's more humane, one that's more personalized, and one that fundamentally puts the student at the center. This wasn't possible 5 years ago. But now is the time because the social web has finally become nearly ubiquitous. Almost everyone, I'm willing to bet everyone in this room and almost everyone who's engaging in the economy has some kind of a social identity on Facebook, LinkedIn, Google+, something. Unemployment is stuck at 10%, and around the country, smart, hardworking people are occupying all of our cities. And there's this massively well-documented misalignment between the needs of the economy and what's being trained. Now's the time for employers and colleges to deepen their ties and create a new system of credentialing that's good for colleges, that's good for employers, and that puts the students at the center. This is a graph that the CEO of Simply Hired showed me recently. What you can see is on this side, you have the number of job openings in the United States. Simply Hired is a job aggregator. It crawls the web and looks for open jobs. On this side is time, and on this side is the time to hire. And what you can see really clearly from the data that he showed was that although the number of jobs dipped, it's back to where it started since the economy tumbled. What's changed? It's that the time to hire has gone up by 3 to 5 times. This is real data coming out of the entire internet. All the jobs that are out there, this is real data for the United States. The problem isn't that people don't have open jobs. The problem is that the companies can't find people who are adequately prepared and that they can trust to fill the openings they've got. And after talking with hundreds of employers through my company, it's clear that it's both a search problem and a training problem. We decided that we couldn't tackle it. My company, Fidelis, decided we couldn't tackle it all at once. It's too big a problem. And so instead, we decided to cut it and focus on a population that we believe in and that we know well, which is the military. It's a population that we believe has tremendous talent and that's superbly credentialed to work well in its industry. Right? The military is actually fairly famous for how well it prepares its own workforce. I've heard education reformers, I've heard school superintendents, I've heard captains of industry all talking about what a good job the military does preparing its workforce. Problem is that not all the preparation translates, right? First off, not all the preparation is actually relevant to a new industry, but also a lot of it doesn't translate well. Here's the thing. The modern military is full of warrior scholars, talented men and women who chose military service as their vocation. Most had multiple other options. The waiting list to get into the military right now is 6 months. Recruiters have their pick of the litter. The old story that we've all heard about the judge who gives the young man a choice between jail on the one hand and the military on the other, it's a really charming relic of the past, but it's where it belongs, which is in the past. The fundamental problem to be fixed for this military to civilian transition is the same fundamental problem that we need to fix to get the rest of the economy moving, which is the realignment of credentialing and training to re-equip the nation's workforce. And the thing that it's going to require is that we take a multi-dimensional view of talent. But we have to do it in a way that respects what's working well about the existing system of credentialing for employers. What do we have to respect? We have to respect that the existing thing prevents false positives, and that's really important as people migrate from the existing system to something new and something better. So to solve the military-civilian challenge, Fidelis decided to, instead of competing with leading universities, to partner directly with them. They're experts at what they do. We think that the top 25, top 50, top 75 colleges around are doing a really good job at what they do, and so we decided to partner with them to help enhance what they're doing and to make sure that we can get the best of it as well. The big idea now is that now is the time for companies to try new ways of evaluating candidates. Now is the time to stop asking, who can we get for this job, and instead to ask, who do we want for this job? Who do we want to bring into this community of people who are solving problems together? If you're hiring someone, try not to use your typical heuristics right now. Instead, custom assemble in your mind the kind of person that you're looking for to get something done. We think that these right here are the six key dimensions that make up human capability. You've got talent, which is fundamentally, it's not what you can do and what you can't at all. It's what's easy for you and what's hard. What do you get without having to work so hard versus what do you have to work really hard at? We're all differently talented. It's a fact, right? Some things are very easy for some people, some things are not. It's critical when you're hiring someone and when you're deciding what you're going to do for a living to know what's easy for you, right? Know what you don't have to work at. Next is personality type. Critically important to understand who are we going to want to work with, what kinds of people are going to fit into this context that we're building. Interests. Psychologists have this thing they call the moment of flow, right? It's where you forget you're working on something because you love it, right? How many of you know and have it on a transcript somewhere where you hit your moment of flow? School should help us discover this. School should help us discover where do we forget we're working and just get the job done. And then on top of that core who you are, talent, type, and interests, we add your knowledge, your skills, and your network. These are the tools that you use in order to get things done in the world. The opportunity is now to reinvent the college transcript and it's got to do everything that it does now, but it's got to do a whole lot more on these 6 dimensions. It will be transformative to be able to search for people based on their true capabilities, rather than going out to search for people who can probably do what you need them to do because of some series of experiences which may have imparted upon them the ability to do it. It's transformative, and it will be so valuable to companies that if done properly, it will ensure that universities can remain as world-class teaching institutions in the future. Now, here's something that may surprise you. It's that the history of the evolution of the US system of education is really deeply tied to the end of major conflicts. So the land-grant universities came out of the Civil War, right? The GI Bill basically funded the reinvention of the university after World War II. Now is the time to focus on this. Now is the time to focus on this because as we draw down from our wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, there's a massive bipartisan effort around reintegrating and rebuilding these people into the workforce. In the civilian world, population on people is scarce, and hiring is still about inference and intuition. As we move forward and as you think about what the system of education can become, remember that after 17 years of being in school, there's only 3 data points that the system has to tell people who you are, what you want, what you're good at, and what you should be. Those 3 data points are first, the college you graduated from, second, the GPA, and third, the major. That's it. All those assignments, all that work that you did, all the people you met, all the opportunities to gather data to really define who you are, what you want, and where you want to go, all of that data is lost. I think the future of the credential is that it captures all of that information and it layers it on top, wraps it around the credential, the piece of paper that we all have hanging on our wall right now, and provides us and the world around us a mountain of data that allows us to navigate this crazy world we live in. Thank you.